Welcome on into the Utah Blockcast. I'm Steve Bartle, Utah insider for KSL Sports. Back with the fellas. Josh Bennett, Tyson Mall, Cam Beck. Guys, we're now 2 weeks into the season. It's flying by. It's flying by. It feels like it took forever to get here. Now we're already through game 2. How are we feeling after week 2? Utah got the big win, 63-9, at home in the home opener at Rice-Eccles Stadium. A lot of fun, a lot of highlight plays, some frustrating moments. But how are we feeling Sunday night?
I still feel good. I think there's a lot of stuff that the team can clean up. But listen, it's Cal Poly. I don't care who you are. You're not going into that game with like a massive amount of hype, even if it is the first home game. It's Cal Poly. I'll reserve judgment for that kind of focus when it comes to Texas Tech in 2 weeks. But you take care of business against the teams you're supposed to take care of business against, and that's really all you can ask for. So I'm happy.
Yeah, I was going to say, on the other hand, nothing better, hard to find a lot of complaint with a 54-point win. And so I'm feeling good. Not a lot to feel bad about.
Yeah, 100 points through the first 2 weeks. Not many scenarios where you should be complaining about that. So I feel good. I think there's opportunities to clean up. I think we got a lot of good stuff on tape. I think of those drives where we keyed in on certain players over and over again, got a lot of different wrinkles on film. We scored 63 and we could have scored 100 if we really wanted to, right? So opportunities to get better, and we're 2-0 with the chance to go 3-0. So no complaints here.
Yeah, I think there's plenty to dive into, obviously. And look, again, you win by 54 points, as you said, Cam. Not really a lot to complain about, and you're kind of picking at little things here against a Cal Poly team that was clearly overmatched. But that's what we do is we pick things apart and discuss, and so that's what we'll do on tonight's episode. So what we'll talk about on this episode, we're gonna do.
And that's why you have this game, right? You have this game for this specific purpose, to work out where these sloppy areas are and to find these areas to nitpick. And so it's good, we do it every year. It's a fun tradition. But usually things that can either be corrected or that can be it is fun though. It feels like there's one or two things every year, in the sense of one of these things is a red herring, and one of these things is an actual thing you should think about throughout the season. And so it'll be fun to see what things those are.
Yeah. And I think we'll dive into the game. We'll recap what was basically a tale of two halves, right? Utah started that game pretty sluggishly in the first half. A lot of penalties, a lot of errors and mishaps, but got it cleaned up in the second half. So we'll break down the game. We'll run through some position groups. We'll do that and sort of assessing what we've seen through the first 2 games. We'll take a look at the Big 12 picture through 2 games. Well, most conference teams have through 2 games. There's a couple that have played 3 now, but we'll run through the conference as well, do a little power ranking. But first, with it being the home opener and returning to Rice-Eccles Stadium for the first time this season since, really the spring game, but that doesn't count. Man, what was it like being back up at Rice-Eccles Stadium? I always enjoy my walk down to the stadium from, my parking spot as a media member. And it, I've talked about this before, but just walking down to the stadium, seeing Rice-Eccles and seeing Salt Lake City behind it, it's one of the few things that I really look forward to each and every Saturday. It's just such a special, unique view. And being at Rice-Eccles Stadium, it was awesome to see a lot of familiar faces, have a lot of fun conversation with folks, and just it was a good time. So I'd be curious, just what was it like being back at Rice-Eccles Stadium and sort of the vibe within the stadium.
Yeah, it was ended up being a beautiful day after some rain and whatnot, but good mix of weather. Got some football weather early on, which no complaining about. The tailgates a lot more fun this go around, just because I'm no longer just this anonymous cup on Twitter. So starting to meet some people that I've been interacting with for almost a decade now at this point. So cool to meet a lot of people and get a lot of support for what we're doing here on the Blockcast, like saying like, hey, it's been awesome seeing you on there. So shout out to the people that said hello and to cheers to making new friends. So excited to get 5 more of those Saturdays. And there's not much better than a afternoon at Rice-Eccles.
Yeah, well, I'm bummed I didn't make it. I ended up I ran a half marathon yesterday morning, and then actually immediately had to go to a funeral for somebody on my wife's side of the family. And then and I was super tired, so I went home to take a nap, and then I ended up watching the game just at my mom's house with my wife and 2 girls and my sister. But the day ended up turned out weather was great. I was pleasantly surprised at how full the stadium was at kickoff. I was not, Utah fans have a reputation among Utah fans of not being there for opening kick. And maybe that was just, if that would have been game 1, it might have been that way. But I think after the UCLA game, and I know we talked about this last week, kind of washing away the sins of the last 2 years, I think maybe people were a little extra excited to see the team play. So I think that might have played into it. But yeah, I was happy with Utah fans actually. Stadium was relatively full-ish at kickoff, which is still better than they have said most of the time in the past, which is understandable. The last 2 years.
I'll echo that as well. Like seeing it at kickoff, as full as it was. There's still work to do. Still too many empty seats. But I'm sure as we get to some of these bigger games, like that was the thing. It was Cal Poly, but still good to see people in their seats before kickoff and have that atmosphere rock. And I think that was really good to see. And I think it'll only get better as we move forward this season.
I know Dan Pierce said it was as advertised. That Rice-Eccles home game was as advertised as he'd been told coming into this.
Yeah, I want to add to the muss was ready to go. I got in there about 30 minutes before, and the muss was already filled in nicely. And also that rain, just want to call out that rain kind of felt like maybe that's symbolic for a little cleansing for all the bull crap the last 2 years. Like it just came in, rain washed everything away, and then the sun came out. So the last time that we had a storm to kick off our first home game of the season was in 2021. So take that for what you will. 2021 was a pretty good season. So yeah.
Did not know that.
Yeah, I just remember just being soaking wet, and then everybody went out on the field, and then we're in the tunnels, and we're shoulder to shoulder.
Oh yeah, the Weber State game. Yeah, that one rained pretty good. I remember that. Yeah, that was a pretty wild one. That was Charlie Brewer too.
Yeah, you think the concourses are full? And
the Charlie Brewer was off to a hot start in that one, and we all thought he was. I don't know. Maybe we didn't all think that because that was quite the off season.
He picked up right where he left off in the spring game.
Yep.
How long into the game? I myself was not at Rice-Eccles either, though I have neither a death nor half marathon excuse. But how far into the game did the rain stop?
When did it stop?
First quarter.
It was first or second quarter. Yeah, it was brief.
Sometime in the game, though.
Yeah.
It was honestly quick, and it felt kind of nice getting rained on a little bit, and then all of a sudden the sun was just out baking, so it was then you kind of wanted more of that rain, and then there's little cloud coverage here and there, but
I was in the press box. The rain only obstructed my view out the window, so
I thought about you. I thought about you while I'm sitting there getting rained on. I was like, good for him. He's earned this.
Steve needs to pay an intern or something just to stand at the very top underneath the window with the squeegee. Anytime there's a rain game.
Can we get some wipers on these windows? Man, it's tough out here in the press box. So anyways, obviously it was good to be back at the Rice-Eccles Stadium. A lot of fun. It was a good atmosphere. I think the energy, you could feel the optimism again from Utah fans. There was a lot of excitement, as we walked through the tailgate lot and just interacting with a lot of folks. There was a lot of excitement and anticipation for what they were going to see, in the game and with Devin Dampier and what this offense would look like. And I think, obviously a lot to break down from the game, but before we get all into that, I want to make sure I shout out the offensive lineman of the week, the blockhead of the week. I got to make sure I keep this going. Tanoa Togiai, let me make sure I get this right. Had a great game. Had the highest grade according to Premium or according to Pro Football Focus, and had a play at the goal line where off the snap he got forklifted, but then just reset, got his feet under him, bowed the back, and overpowered the defensive lineman to get Nakari Rogers into the end zone. A really impressive effort. I think Togiai has been a real bright spot for Utah the last 2 seasons at that left guard spot, and I think he's going to be he's going to continue to be a real bright spot for Utah this season. So want to keep this going with the Blockhead helmet sticker, giving that to him this week. He had a very clean game in pass pro. Still some things to work on. There was a stunt between him and Caleb Lomu that got by the two of them. So still some things to work on. But I thought Tanoa Togiai had the best game of the group this week, and I think that that offensive line is going to continue to be a real bright spot for Utah week in, week out. So shout out to Tanoa Togiai for earning the Blockhead helmet sticker of the week. I've got an order for actual Blockhead helmet stickers, so I'm excited to get those. Now I just need to find a helmet to put it on. So excited for that. But let's dive into the game, fellas. I'm going to pull up some clips of the game and we can kind of walk through it. So first half, it's kind of sluggish. Just what were you guys' thoughts as we're watching the game kind of unfold through the first quarter? I was sort of anticipating Utah jumping out the gate and clicking and getting things going, but it took it was a possession here, and then they had a punt and another possession and all that. But just where were you guys at with the game, watching it through the first half?
Yeah. I was pretty optimistic overall. I think, yes, things were a little sluggish, but it was rain kind of came in right as the game started. It is Cal Poly. They probably, we're up, but knew that this was the game that it was. They've got business to take care of, but maybe weren't as up as they were. I'll bet a lot of them were pretty nervous to be playing in a new home stadium as well. To the fans' excitement of seeing Devin Dampier, I think there was probably a little bit of that nervousness too. But overall, I think even in the first half, saw a lot of what I needed to see, despite some sloppiness. A couple of things that we'll get into later, but definitely feeling like there was a lot of opportunities left on the table. Defense was maybe a little sloppier, a little bit sluggish, I think was the word you used. More sluggish than you'd like to see. But again, going into halftime with the lead that they had, with the defense really not allowing much other than a couple of field goal opportunities, couldn't complain too much. Yeah, I kind of had the same thought. I have a group chat with a couple of my buddies, and one of the first things I said halfway through the first quarter is they look sloppy. They look like they're not necessarily locked in too much. And again, when you have those games where you're that much better than the other team, I get it. It's kind of tough to get up and play the way you're supposed to. But at some point, I think they finally decided, okay, enough of that. Let's show these guys how we play football, and then they kind of locked in after that. I can't imagine Witt was super happy at halftime. I can imagine there were some choice words for a lot of the play that we saw, but again, like Cam said, this is why you play that game. It's it's a tune-up game. Yeah, they definitely got angry with. They definitely got angry with it at halftime, but I think again, this is the one you want them. That's the situation you want them. Yeah. I think that a lot more to learn from seeing how they learn from those mistakes. What mistakes kind of we don't see next week with Wyoming. I think a big one thing I did want to touch on too. I think having two of your more vocal leaders on each side of the ball being out for the game with in Logan and Jaron Kump.
I think that's going to play into it, especially on the offense when center is about as big of a part of the offense as you can get. So having Jaron come out, I think was tough. I mean, props to Alex Harrison for stepping in and doing well. But I think having him and having Logan out definitely played a part in kind of that lackadaisical stuff and the not quite so focused. I think if those two play, I think it might be. I don't think it's going to be as perfect as it could have been because, again, like I said, it's Cal Poly. It's a tune-up game, but I think it would have been better than it was.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you flip-flop our first two games and this was our first game, I don't think we're even as concerned about some of the little things. So, that result that we put up there against UCLA, I think that affects some of it because against UCLA, we're more or less scoring every time we touch the football, right? So I think that expectation carries on into that second week where you play an FCS school. But it's hard to get up for Cal Poly. I think we saw a little bit of that head in the clouds performance where we got our flowers all week long, and these kids are for sure they're seeing what people are saying, what's on this podcast, this ESPN show, whatever, and I think that was just one of those things. They came out a little bit flat, a little stuck in the mud. The rain's out, and overall, though, as we approached halftime, we wanted to see something different in the second half, and I liked what we saw in the second half.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And I think. Oh, go ahead, Kim.
Oh no, I'm sorry. I was just gonna say, and I think that every year there are a couple of teams who give away those games and give away these games at this part of the season, and Utah's lost early season games before, not like really to opponents of Cal Poly's level by any means, but and not that these opponents are of their level, but you don't want to be Arizona State or Florida on Sunday morning, right? And that's what you avoid. You go out, you still win by a huge margin. You've got some things to clean up, but you still feel good. You still feel really good moving on from here.
Yeah, and Georgia. Sorry, real quick. Georgia 28-6, right? Like if Georgia played Austin Peay and won 28-6, I don't even want to know what their message boards look like right now.
Clemson struggled with Troy.
Great. Yeah. They were down for a good chunk of that game, and it's
LSU didn't do all that hot either. I don't think. Against Louisiana Tech.
Yeah,
I think was the game.
These games are weird, and we won by 54, so it's like,
we're definitely nitpicking at things, and I think one thing that as I went back and watched the game, it was interesting, especially on that defensive side of the ball. Utah ran some different coverages. They ran some softer coverages than what we typically see. What we saw to finish the half and to open the second half, where we saw more of that Utah man coverage and being aggressive up front. That's what we saw. But to open that game, there was a lot of softer coverage, guys playing off the ball, guys playing a variety of zone coverages, and I think in these types of games, it's valuable for a coach to kind of put your guys in uncomfortable situations. Maybe that's not it, but you're trying to learn about your guys. You're going to put them in stuff that you don't always typically run, and against Cal Poly, that provides you a great opportunity to do so against a team that isn't up to your level in terms of body types, athleticism, talent, right? So you can experiment, you can learn, you can put your guys in tougher situations and see how they respond. And I think that is something that I have a hunch was part of yesterday's game plan. I doubt that Morgan Scalley would ever confirm that, but that is certainly a process that I know coaches go through with these types of games. Is you're trying to put them through difficult situations to learn about them and see how they handle them. And so, there were certainly some mishaps and guys that, made some mistakes, and that, but I think Utah, like you said, going into halftime, definitely got some angry Whittingham in the locker room, because they came out in that second half, got a quick 3 and out, and then Devin Dampier led the offense down on what was probably their best drive, maybe their best drive. I don't know, but that third quarter was really impressive from both Dampier and Bird Ficklin. But they came out sharp. Dampier made a great throw to Dallin Bentley in the end zone at the front pylon. Beautiful ball. And from there, it was the Bird Ficklin show. So second half was a much different story. I'd be curious to get your guys' take on what we saw, especially in that third quarter from Dev, and and then we can dive into the Bird Ficklin experience.
I mean, the ball you just mentioned is the real highlight, the big highlight, because again, we haven't seen a ton from Dampier's arm down the field, and that was a perfect put the ball drop in a bucket, as they say, right?
Yeah.
But also the adjustment to get that ball by Bentley to get turn around, bend back, and get that ball was really phenomenal. That's a hard catch.
And the foot down, it wasn't a toe tap, but he got the foot down simultaneously. Perfect.
Yeah, that he made that look easier than maybe it should, or that it should be let go unknown, because that's a really difficult adjustment. He made a great catch there to make that happen too. But loved seeing kind of that urgency once they did come out. Clearly the spark was there. Clearly, there was a moment or two to say, like, see, we can look at what we're capable of when we actually focus here. I think such a big part of a long season that we've talked about in seasons before is keeping guys focused throughout the season. And so I think this is, again, a good reason, a good opportunity for that mental exercise for guys to be like, hey, yes, this is Cal Poly, but like when it's not Cal Poly, you let your guard down and suddenly you're down 21 points in a game in the first half, and like keeping your energy up, keeping that focus is as much as important as keeping physically healthy, making sure you're paying attention to plays, etc. Anyway,
I think too, one of the most impressive parts of that first drive of the third quarter, that started with a 5-yard loss. And kind of just someone got through and Wei Shan didn't have anywhere to go and got dropped for 5 yards. And then they went 14-yard run by Dampier, 5-yard run by Andrews, 6 yards by Dakari, 4 yards, 27-yard pass, 4-yard pass, and no gain, and then the touchdown. That's a clinical drive, especially to do that after a 5-yard loss. That could have been like, oh, okay, well, maybe this isn't gonna turn around all that much. But yeah, that was a great drive to start the second half.
And I'm glad you mentioned that, because that is something that we've seen through the first 2 games, is that Utah can overcome falling behind the change, which is something Utah was incapable of doing last season.
Yeah, that last season, you start a drive with a 5-yard loss. I was, pack it in. Get the punter warmed up, get Bowmeister going.
Yep.
There were honestly times in points of games last year where it felt like 10 yards was impossible. 15 yards? 15 yards, truly just
brutal last year.
Just don't make this any worse. Just kneel twice and not even 3 times. Just punt this thing. Run some time down. Get the defense a little bit of a breather and just punt this friggin' thing.
Yeah. No, so in the first half, I believe we had 6 penalties total. And then we had 1 penalty the rest of the way. So that shows that we cleaned things up, right? Cam, you started kind of touching on this. The game was more or less put away at halftime. There's not that it's not easy to grab motivation to get better in the second half against a team like Cal Poly when you're already up 35-6. But when we were talking in the space at halftime, we were all debating should Dampier be done for the day? Should the ones be done for the day? And I said, I'd like to see at least 1 more drive from the offense to just go out there and prove that they can just execute against a team that they should be able to execute against. I'd like to see 2 of those drives. But we got that one where Dampier came down, and then the next drive, Wei Shan got his breakaway before he was packed it up for the day. But it was good to see us just come out focused, do what we wanted on that drive, and get down the field, end it in 6. And what a toss from Dampier to Bentley. Great throw, great catch. one of those things you need to see. That's the kind of catch that's the kind of throw and catch that's made against any team in the country. It's not a level of play kind of thing. That ball placement was perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like, nobody told these Cal Poly defenders that they were that outmatched in this game either, because they were playing really tough. They were chirping as well. But they were giving the receivers some trouble at times and playing guys really closely. And I think they played a really tough game on the line as well. But that throw, might as well, like you said, could have been against any team. And it's a great play against any team, and is probably a touchdown against any team. I'm glad you mentioned Wayshawn's breakaway run, though. That's one thing, like I said, that was kind of missing from the UCLA game, was there was so much push up front, but then nothing really afterward. And so it was good to see. It's good to see them break a couple, have a couple of big plays, and find some open field and run through it.
Yeah.
You could tell that whole second half, Wayshawn wanted it. Wayshawn wanted that.
Yeah.
Wanted that run, because you saw a lot of the time you'd see him like on the sideline or like after plays. You could tell he was like, you could tell he knew he was close. He wanted that. He wanted that long run. You could see him just getting more and more frustrated and wanting it more and more, and then he got it.
He got it. Extremely locked in yesterday. I was over by the Ute Walk. Hadn't been one of those in years. I was like, I'll go see it, just check it out. And when he walked by, like it was just tunnel vision, and he just looked pissed off, focused, ready to go, had the headphones on. Some of the other guys are dapping up the kids as they walk by and stuff. He was just all business.
Wayshawn ain't got time for the kids.
Nope. And
someone put him over the Michael Jordan meme.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep. I love it. Hey, but he went out. He had the 52-yard reception, then the 43-yard run. I'll take that. I'll take Wayshawn. Ain't got time for the kids if he's gonna continue to make plays like that. So yeah, we'll do with that. And so just to kind of encapsulate everything, Devin Dampier finished pretty quietly with 3 touchdowns, which tied a career high for him. Through the air. So he finished 17 of 23 for 192 yards. Didn't have as big a game on the ground this week, which was a good thing. I think we can all agree there. Didn't need him. Utah sort of supplanted some of those looks with other guys, Nate Johnson, Hunter Andrews, and that Wildcat to kind of get that sort of QB run game. Still sort of having a presence, on the offense, but again, this is the sort of production that is just really impressive, right? Just quietly putting together a really efficient night, really high completion percentage. He's protecting the ball. He's not taking a lot of chances right now, and he's still ending up just shy of 200 yards through the air, 3 touchdowns, and certainly could have been more productive on the ground. But what he did do in his opportunities, Tyson, you mentioned Utah fell behind the chains. He had the big run to get them back ahead of the chains, 2nd and 1, the very next play. And that is the key to Devin Dampier is, he's able to use his legs in timely, certain situations to get Utah in advantageous situations again.
And then the star of the game came in.
What's the word?
Bird Ficklin, baby.
Bird
is the word. 4 for 4 for 53 yards through the air, 13.3 average, a 99.9 QBR. Not to mention 55 yards rushing and 2 touchdowns, a 38-yard long. Man, he had a cannon.
Yeah.
A few of those balls he threw had some smoke on them.
Oh, yeah. He had that one rolling out to his left. Put it right on the money. Ryan Davis, man. Put it on his numbers. Just incredible throw. Incredible throw.
Like, it's just that, like, whip motion, too. Like, it's not like he's, like, gearing up and just hucking it. Like, it's just that just fluid, supple whip of the arm, and it just...
Supple.
Like
anytime you can incorporate the word supple into a football conversation, it's going
you have to take that chance. like Camp said, that had some smoke behind it. If there was rain, you would have saw a trail of water coming off the back of that thing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you would have heard the sizzle on it. Yeah, I mean, obviously loved what you saw from Bird Ficklin when he came in, and just all of the backups and the third string guys who we're going to see a little bit less time throughout the season. But obviously wanted to touch on his performance because he came in, threw the ball around a few times, got a couple of scores himself, and backup quarterback's always the most popular guy, right? But not necessarily, not throw that out there, but man, that was fun to watch.
I think
really was.
The thing to think about, again, we know it's Cal Poly, but for your first 2 offensive drives of your college career as a true freshman, you go 6 plays, 95 yards for a touchdown with some big plays, granted, great. But then your second one, you go 15 plays, 75 yards and a touchdown in 9 minutes.
Yeah.
That's
really
crazy
stuff. Yeah.
Like that's command of the offense.
Totally had control of the offense, and it gives us a lot of that confidence, not even going to start to stage that hypetical. He can run.
Why
this.
not?
He can
Bennett.
He can run.
Go ahead.
If something were to happen, like the last 2 years, right? Something happens to QB1, it's everything's lost,
that's
right?
what you were saying. That's okay. All right. Yeah, take it back. Take it back.
You made me put this in the universe, but it's sorry. Okay. It's okay. We can put this in the universe now because we have Bird Ficklin. I guess that's what I'm getting at is like if something were to happen to QB1, you have a guy who can come in, and we didn't see drop off on offensive production. We could have scored a lot more points. I said that we could have scored 100 if we wanted to. Obviously, a little bit of exaggeration there, but we started to in the second half do a lot of that run left, run right, trying different things. We wanted to keep the clock moving and get to 0 as soon as possible. We want to get out of there injury free. And when Ficklin was out there, it was like there was no drop off. I know we're playing against Cal Poly, but this is huge for a true freshman to go in and in front of all of his people. And that's when on his big, it's called a 40-yard touchdown run. It was so much. There was so much juice that came into the stadium on a day where it was hard to keep that constant juice in Rice-Eccles.
What's really interesting? Going back watching that game, that pass to Ryan Davis, you can literally hear the crowd like, wow. You can hear it through the TV replay. It's the craziest thing, but you can hear the awe as they watch that ball come off of his hands with that velocity and the accuracy. It was one of the wildest things I've ever in rewatching a game. Cause I watch it usually without the sound on, but to see that, to hear that, it was really, really something.
Can't hear the crowds oohs and ahs through the press box glass, can you?
No, you can't. No, that's another problem with the press box.
Speaking of just one quick thing, speaking of 100 points, oh my gosh, what was Minnesota doing to that poor Northwestern State team or whatever? Did any of you see that? The halftime score? It was like 63-0 at half. It was so bad. Anyway, but back to the Utah game. I think they stayed perfect in the red zone. Is that right? Through with Dampier, they definitely were. I couldn't recall or hadn't kept close enough track of whether they had any failed. Technically,
they are
9 for
11 for 11
touchdowns. Oh,
that was 9. It was 9 for 9 with Dampier. I know for sure.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, 11 for 11 total.
The great part about Ficklin too is like you didn't see like a change in play calling. You saw more runs, obviously, because you want to park the bus and get out of the game injury free. So you're calling a lot of runs, but like it wasn't like Bird was just called in to receive the snap and hand it off to Duke or to Guillory or whoever else was back there. Like Beck was still calling these misdirection plays, these jet sweeps, these quarterback runs. Like it wasn't just, take the snap, hand the ball off, and then let's get out of here. Like, it was nice to see that.
And I think
as a change. And
I think again, that was, part part of the plan, right? Was to not only get him on the field, to get him, taking snaps, but to see what he could do, right? He prepared all week as QB2, and he went out and got some opportunities to, show us some things. And I think really, has instilled a lot of confidence, optimism in his future, at Utah, with how he fits in this offense, how he performed. And for him, as exciting as it is, I think it's important to keep that perspective that he is still a true freshman. He still has a lot to learn, right? There's so much about what's going on the other side of the ball that he has to learn and develop. And I think what's really exciting is coaches rave about his work ethic and sort of his mindset. So that's a really encouraging thing for him. So be excited, but let's maintain that perspective that, he's still a true freshman. We went through that experience last year. We don't need to experience that one again.
Quick question. Is he the second best quarterback in the state of Utah?
Bennett, you're the man. Yeah.
Him or Bryson Barnes?
I mean, the numbers say it. He's got, in terms of efficiency.
Look at the QBRs.
The QBR, man. It's the best, it's the most telling QB stat. QBR, baby. All right. Let's switch gears. I think we've talked enough about the game itself. And now that we've got 2 games under our belt, we can, talk about some of these position groups and where they've sort of performed according to our expectations coming into the season, and maybe sort of our outlook moving forward after these 2 games. And obviously we know, like, these first 2 games don't tell us everything, don't tell us a whole lot, but we've learned, quite a bit still. So let's run through each position group, and Cam, if you want to go ahead, get us started talking about the defensive secondary. What are your thoughts on just that group, how they've performed through these first 2 games? Because it's kind of a, 2 different games, 2 different outcomes, when you're talking about how they looked against UCLA and then how they looked against Cal Poly.
Well, and so hard to judge the competition that we're seeing too, because again, we keep saying Cal Poly is Cal Poly, but so we had a whole segment last week about is UCLA just bad, and you go watch UCLA and it's just like UCLA might just be bad. But I think that going into the season, the safety, or not safety group so much, but the DB group, the passing defense in general was kind of one of my biggest question marks. That, along with maybe interior linemen, that we'll, someone else will get to. I think that after 2 games, I feel confident that they will be fundamentally strong in the way that we expect Utah football players to be, in the sense of being good tacklers, being very physical, being able to make plays at or even behind the line of scrimmage in run support. I still have a lot of worries about that group in pass support. There's been a couple of different occasions where guys are either trailing guys in pass protection or just getting beat in one-on-one situations where you would expect them to be a little bit more either aggressive or close to their guy, have less separation between them and the receiver. There's also been a couple of occasions where, you'll have a linebacker. There was one case in particular where Trey Reynolds, it looks like, was passing somebody off to a safety that wasn't behind him. And you see that happen in the game and see a guy just kind of running loose. And those are just hopefully areas to tighten up on. But kind of matching my expectations going into the season of what would that DB group look? How strong would they be outside of Snowden? If he's getting a bunch of times on the offensive side of the ball, what does that mean for the overall success of that group? And I think overall that group still played a good enough game. They were good when they needed to be, and ultimately only allowed 9 points. And so a huge success kind of no matter the situation, especially when your team's putting up 63. But I worry still that there will be games, especially games very soon, where that passing defense will need to be very good. And, Utah could, frankly, with the state of its offense, if the offense plays well, could be involved in some passing shootouts. in the near future, based on what we've seen so far, unless we see some improvements.
That'll be interesting with the defensive secondary. I'm glad that you mentioned there's been some breakdowns. Jackson Benny has been fantastic, right? He got the pick six. He extended the streak to 22 straight seasons, and there's a lot of excitement around how he's looked. And I think he's sort of changed the conversation in that secondary. We saw yesterday with Benny is he played a lot in that slot, which allowed Snowden to play outside. And that gave Utah the flexibility to play Scooby or Blake Cotton on the other side. And so, go ahead.
No. I was just going to say, Benny had nearly the game of his life, like probably was 2 steps away from 2 more interceptions, plus the fumble recovery that should have been. Jono had the incredible play behind the line of scrimmage with that interception. I think, like I said, up near the line of scrimmage and in run support, I think this defensive back group is really good, and the safety group has played really well. The pass support and probably where you were going before I cut you off.
I was just going to say with Benny, there was an opportunity. I think Cal Poly's biggest play was a blown coverage by Benny. And so, for as great as he was, there's still things that he's kind of ironing out with his game. And so that's sort of the give and take here, right? There are guys making plays. And to your point, Cam, that the tackling did improve from week 1 to week 2, where I think Utah was close to 15 missed tackles, with the majority of those coming from the defense secondary against UCLA. Only 3 missed tackles against Cal Poly last night. So much. All right. Sorry, my mic disconnected. Sorry.
But all of us react at the same time.
All right.
All of us were like, wait, is that me? All at once.
But Bennett, let's switch gears to you. Skilled positions on the offense side of the ball, wide receiver, tight end. I'd be curious to get your thoughts on those 2 groups.
Yeah, definitely a hot topic coming into the season. Definitely a hot topic through the first 2 weeks of the season. We're trying to figure out what we have in that wide receiver room. That's been a position group for a while now that we've been really just waiting for somebody to come in and be dominant. We got some of that with Dorian Singer last year, but last year very much a what could have been scenario with the quarterback situation the way it was last year, the quarterback play the way it was last year, I should say. So when you come into this year, obviously I'm still an unanswered question, and we're through 2 weeks, and we're starting to kind of figure some of that stuff out. There's some guys that are starting to stand out. Smith Snowden is a wide receiver when he's on the offensive ball for what it's worth, right? And I think he's been somebody that's been absolutely reliable, albeit those are on those little screen passes and whatnot. It's not like he's streaking down the sideline, but he's somebody that we're able to get the ball out on the edge. That's going to be really important if teams try to stack the box against us. We'll have Smith as an outlet right there on the edge. He's got 9 catches for 49 yards through the first 2 games. Ryan Davis has seemingly emerged as Dan Pierre's favorite guy, go-to guy. That's not really surprising with that chemistry having carried over from New Mexico. It's very apparent that they get along, and their timing is down. He's 9 catches for 80 yards, and 6 of those catches for 58 yards came yesterday against Cal Poly. Ryan Davis looks like he's able to catch kind of whatever's thrown his way. There was that pass over the middle where he climbed the ladder to pull that in. There's a lot of guys that aren't climbing that ladder, not bringing that in. So awesome to see that from Ryan Davis. He's starting to stand out. We know that Tobias Merriweather, he's got the tools. 6'5" is absolutely intriguing. I love long length wide receivers, guys that, if they got 6 inches on the DB that's covering them, just throw the ball up to him. And he's got 4.4 speed, if I'm correct. So we're kind of waiting for Tobias to break out. He had 3 catches for 37 yards. So it was a good step in the right direction, but just waiting for him to kind of break open. After that, in terms of wide receivers, there's still a lot we got to figure out. haven't seen as much production from that room. But staying along the lines of targets for our quarterbacks. I say quarterbacks because we talked about Ficklin so much. I hope we get to see more of them in blowout time. But anyway, the tight ends. I'm loving what we're seeing out of Dallin Bentley.
Yes.
Like, he has been awesome. He has absolutely exceeded expectations. I thought, he'd be, kind of like a Mr. Reliable here and there, but like, he's actually a threat. Like, he is good. He is athletic. He knows how to get the ball. He's got 7 catches for 66 yards and 2 touchdowns, and he's been an absolute stud. And then after that, we'll see what that shakeout will be as the year goes on. But you got JJ Buchanan, who's got 3 catches for 29 yards. Hunter Andrews, who has 3 for 19. Hunter Andrews also doing some of the rushing attack too. And then Lander Barton. We saw him in there yesterday. He got a catch really early on. I'm happy with the tight end room. I think overall, combining like our targets, like to see some more out of the wide receiver stuff on the outside. Do need to call out that we have 1 catch for more than 20 air yards, and that was last week to Tobias Merriweather. So we want to see us be able to stretch the field more. We want to see us have that deep threat. Right now, we just haven't had a real need for it. So we'll see what that shakes out. That's something I'm keeping an eye on as we go. So
I think that's going to be an important element for Utah to incorporate. And I think what we've seen through 2 games, there's been opportunities for Dampier to push the ball down the field, but he's been a little cautious with the ball, and maybe a little protective. That's probably the better word to use there. With that, but that is going to be an important part of his development this year, is the willingness to take some of those shots. There are plenty of moments, opportunities, guys getting open down the field, and it's just going to be up to Dampier to identify those guys and get the ball to them, at a much proficient rate. So, we'll see with that wide receiver room. But to your point, that tight end group has looked really solid. When you look at PFF and some of their grades, the 3 tight ends, Dallin Bentley, Lander Barton, Hunter Andrews, they lead Utah in terms of receiving grade. And it's Lander with the highest grade at 80.1. So pretty surprising there. But Dallin Bentley, he's been a guy that, when he joined the program a couple years ago, there's been a lot of optimism around him. He's been a breakout candidate for seemingly forever, which we've talked about before. And it seems like he's fully healthy, which has been his issue. And we're seeing where that optimism came from, right? Where it originated, why it was there. And so I think he's going to continue to have this sort of presence. So, speaking of Hunter Andrews and that group, that sort of transitions to the running game and the running backs. Tyson, what do you think of what we've seen so far with that group?
I'm extremely happy with the running back group. And I was going to point out, I want to give a shout out to Hunter Andrews because I think it was his first run yesterday. He lowered his head and he took a pretty good hit, and you could tell he was a little sore. That was one of those things where like, all right, that hurt a little bit. And I think he even like looked at the sideline like he was going to come out, and Jason Beck was like, no, you're getting it again, man. Like get the ball in your hands again. You're going back out there for another one. And he ran hard again. And I think he had 2 more runs after that initial one. But it shows you the toughness that Hunter Andrews has. And the thing that we've been excited about all offseason leading up to this, knowing that he was going to get touches, and I think he's definitely met all those expectations that we've had on him. But the running back group, the main running backs, I think we all came in thinking Wayshawn Parker was going to be RB1 and Nakari Rogers was going to be like a TJ Pledger type back. And I'm very happily proven wrong on that. I think this is a true 1A, 1B running back situation. And I think something that I want to say that they're modeling themselves after is Penn State with Katron Allen and Nick Singleton. no one's going to be on their level. Like those are two of the top, probably 3 running backs in the entire country, them and Jeremiah Love from Notre Dame. But one of the reasons that they can be that effective is because one of them's not just the bell cow who's getting 25 carries a game. Like,
yeah,
let's see, they did. Wayshawn had. Sorry, I said the box score pulled up. Wayshawn had six carries, and Nakari had 7. I think going into conference play, there's going to be a little more. I think they're going to take some stuff maybe because I think Nate Johnson had 11. I think this might be the last game you see Nate Johnson get more than 6 touches, unless something drastically changes with how he performs, but where you can't not get in the ball. But like Nakari Rogers is definitely earning that 1B designation. And honestly, like through 2 games, I might give him 1A at this point, the way that he's been running and the way that he's been playing. And again, that takes nothing away from how good Wayshawn's been. Like far exceeded my expectations as a running back group. My expectations were pretty high with at least with Wayshawn. I didn't full stop. I did not look a bunch into Nakari Rogers at New Mexico. So I've been very pleasantly surprised at how well he has done. And he's a workhorse.
Yeah. What Nakari is, he is just that consistent jab, right? Just that constant body blow where you can count on him to pick up 5, 6, 7 yards because he navigates traffic really, really well. With his pace, with his vision, his toughness. He's that guy. And Wayshawn is kind of that, the hook, the uppercut, that special punch, right? I think that's kind of what we're seeing with this group.
Yeah, definitely. And again, and Nakari's got that ability. He had the catch from Bird where I think he ended up going 20 plus yards for that one.
I think it was 21.
So I think he's got, and I think same thing. I said Wayshawn was waiting for his big breakout run for a touchdown. I think Nakari's waiting for his too. And I think he's got the ability for it. But like you said, I think he's just that consistent. He's not going to take negative yards. He's going to find the holes and he's going to get you, at least 4, 5, 6 yards every single time he gets the ball. And what more can you ask for from a running back?
Yeah. You know what's really interesting and what is sort of the stamp that this is Beck and his offense and his play calling is we've got 9 guys that have attempted have had a carry this year on offense. And I would have to go back last year and take a look, but 9 guys through 2 games. And obviously a couple of those are 3rd, 4th string guys getting some garbage time carries. But, you look at it, you've got Wayshawn, Devin, Nakari, Bird, obviously one of those, Nate Johnson, Hunter Andrews, Smith Snowden. Those are guys that have been pretty heavily incorporated into the run game. And that's just, I think that is, a Beck staple in this with his offense is incorporating different athletes into the run game and minimizing sort of the usage of a bell cow, right? That is something that Wayshawn actually talked about in fall camp is that's not his sort of approach. He wants to incorporate different guys to keep guys fresh. And I think we'll see this rotation, come more into focus and narrow as we get into conference play without a doubt. But I think you have to be really, really pleased with what we've seen from that 1-2 tandem with Rogers and Parker. And especially, if Wayshawn, continues to hold on to the ball, not put it on the deck like he did against UCLA, he'll continue to be that playmaker that I think Utah wants him to be. So
one thing I did, and I would be remiss to not point this out, but I want to give love to Semi Taulonga, a freshman defensive tackle lining up in the backfield in a 3-point stance as a fullback. I think I ascended in that moment when the Utes broke the huddle, because I've been a huge Semi Taulonga fan since he committed. That kid's film is insane. That kid is he's Hunter Dimmick in a smaller, more
bowling ball
package.
Of a body.
Yep. He's what, 5'11",
315.
315. I would, as a former running back, I would have killed to run behind somebody like that. Like
I
the
thought you
Carter
were gonna
Rogers
say
and Wade
killed to
or
be
could've-
like that, to be that big.
I would have liked that too. When I was a fullback, but like if I'm Wayshawn or Nakari and I'm lining up and it's a short yardage situation and the first person in front of me is 315 pounds and as a motor and as an athlete, I'm not worried about getting the first down or getting the touchdown. Like it's going to happen.
Yeah.
So like
No
I think I legit ascended, soul left my body for half a second to see Semi Talonga sit back there in a 3-point stance in the backfield.
Love it, man. Love it. I'll hit on the offensive line real quick. Have been impressed with this group. I think we got a good taste of what this group can be against UCLA. Was a little let down with the execution level against Cal Poly. I think again, I think it speaks to sort of coming into that game not as sharp. That was a group that didn't perform to the same level as they did the week before, but still I think even their B level is really significantly good where you're keeping a quarterback clean, you're providing him a lot of time in the pocket, and you're moving the ball pretty consistently on the ground. So there's going to be much tougher tests coming up. Wyoming even is going to be a tougher test. They have a very aggressive defense that will send some heat. So Utah's going to be tested this week against Wyoming, which will be good because Texas Tech coming in, that gets you, trending towards a very competitive group, and that'll be a tough test. But Spencer Fano, Caleb Lomu have certainly lived up to the billing, and I think what we've learned is the value of Jaron Kump at that center position. Going to be really important to keep him healthy, and he is like if yesterday was anybody but Cal Poly, like if that's the Texas Tech game, we probably see Jaron out there. Similar story with a handful of other guys. So yeah, but I think Jaron Kump, if he makes the sort of strides that he showcased in game one and he continues that level of play this season, this Utah offensive line has the chance to be pretty special. So we've got a couple position groups on the defense side of the ball to kind of talk through. Linebacker, how we feeling about that group and how they've performed so far?
We know Lander Barton, but John O'Hall is going to be a star in this defense. Lander's doing Lander things. We expect that out of Lander, but John O'Hall we've had the high expectations for him, but he is a stud. Like that kid was all over the field, and that interception, that's one, he tipped it, but like two, it also bounced off the quarterback. I don't know how he came back with it. Like,
right.
That's incredible. Just stay on your feet, man. You were 1 yard away.
You can totally see the ball hawking he learned in his time at safety. You can totally see that translating through, and I love that. Nothing like a linebacker that can cover the middle of the field.
I mean, it's not like Utah has any, track record of making safeties into incredible linebackers.
Nobody notable,
right?
At least.
No, I didn't think so.
Yeah, I think linebacker's been really phenomenal. I think that there are some questions with the weak side linebacker position still that I like. That I think that we've seen really, really great things from Lander and from Lavani, and you mentioned Jono and everything he's done. I want to see more from kind of the backside of that defense and just make sure that the depth overall is there, because again, like so much of my worries are around the defensive back group that I think the linebackers are going to be asked to do a lot in the defense this year, and having that group be, really well-rounded is going to be really important.
I think the big thing I keep coming back to the linebacker group is if Lavani Demooney is your number 3 linebacker, like
you're in a good spot.
You're in a good spot. Like, again, I would like to see, like Cam said, a little bit more on that backside, especially, again, I know Trey Reynolds is, he doesn't have the most experience right now, which I think yesterday was really good to get him a lot of reps. And I know he did play in the UCLA game too. So obviously the coaches have the confidence in him. I think that's it's going to have to come from game reps. And, getting him actual live reps to kind of round that out. But again, if Lavani Demooney's linebacker number 3, like you're sitting pretty.
Yeah, and with Levani, I think it's important to keep in mind that he's on sort of a snap count, right? He's still kind of regaining that confidence. That's a process that he's going through these first few games. So, we're not seeing Levani, unleashed just yet. Like he's still got levels to go through in terms of getting back to what we knew him as in 23.
Was it Achilles, right? It was Achilles.
Yeah.
That's tough.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
You don't want to come back too early from one of those.
No, and that's sort of why he's on a snap count, right? Is
Yeah.
to make sure that he's handling, the workload, the increase in the workload each and every week. They're being smart with him because they know he is, he's very good. Like we saw against UCLA, he's a physical presence, and you want that at linebacker.
And while we're there, not to go too much of a tangent, but there's some of the guys that we're missing yesterday. It's important to keep in mind, like we're not going to force a guy to play who's coming back from an injury or maybe a little banged up. Like we're playing against Cal Poly, perfect spot to rest some of those guys. So not to derail too much, but along the lines of the Mooney and snap count and stuff like that. Like it's the production while he's on the field has been awesome. And we're going to get even more of that as we keep going.
Yeah, and moving up that defensive line group, there was Logan Fano who was held out of the game yesterday just as sort of a precaution to give him that rest. And, the other guys stepped up. We saw John Henry Daly get another sack. We saw Cash Dillon notch one. We saw Lance Holsclaw and Paul Fitzgerald split a sack as well. So really encouraged by what we saw from that defensive end group. And then defensive tackles, I've been impressed, surprised with the level of play that we've seen from them, their ability to hold the line of scrimmage. There was a third and short situation, and that group held their ground, didn't give up much movement at all up front. And it's going to be tougher, obviously, against some of these offensive lines coming up, but have been impressed. That group, the defensive end group specifically, has far exceeded sort of where I had them coming into the season. I was optimistic, but still had them. I wanted the cautious approach with them and sort of measured expectations, and they've exceeded them so far.
Yeah, 3 sacks for John Henry Daly through the first 2 games ain't too shabby. He's been the biggest surprise for me on that defense for sure.
Yeah, consistent pressure, getting to the quarterback, finishing.
He's been harping on me for like weeks now to like acknowledge him, but my friend Matt has been huge onto John Henry Daly since the day he committed. Kept saying he's gonna be good, he's gonna be good, he's gonna be good, and I was like, okay, I'm sure he will be, and I know he's got the hype around him, but like whatever, like we got Logan Fano and Cash Dillon and all these, and so Matt, you were right. I'll give you the shout out that you've been.
Yeah, we'll see, Matt.
Begging for.
I'm not willing to give it to you yet, Matt.
But yeah, the DMs have been lights out, and again, doing this without Logan yesterday. What more do you want from guys stepping up and the young guys coming in, especially on the D tackle side? You see a lot of good stuff from Poo-Poo. Man, who am I thinking of?
Carson Kafusi. Yeah.
Like you got young guys who, any other year might not need to be called on to produce the way that they have. And, they've answered the bell and much more ways than I think they honestly might have thought before the season started.
Yeah, that's fair. To wrap this up, quarterbacks, quick thoughts. How are we feeling about quarterback?
The bird's the word.
Bird is the word?
Bird is the word.
Depth chart nightmare.
Say
quarterback controversy.
Is there a quarterback controversy in Salt Lake up on the hill?
2 quarterback system. If you have one quarterback, you have none. You need 2.
To say we're finally going to be the exception of the if you have 2 quarterbacks, you have no quarterbacks rule. Utah will be the exception this year.
Just throw them both out there at the same time. have them both in the backfield, 2 quarterback sets. You've got one a lefty, you've got the other a righty. Like, let's split the field down the middle, 50-50. One gets 26 yards, the other gets 26 yards to operate. That's how we're rolling with it.
It's read option. You roll, they both roll out. Who has the ball, and you roll them out to the side that they're going to throw on.
There you go, man.
Jason,
all right,
hire me.
To wrap this up, let's zoom out through 2 weeks, taking a look at the Big 12 picture. Wanted to run through a Big 12 power ranking. Bennett, you put these up earlier today, and first glance, Cam, Tyson, how are we feeling about what this looks like?
First glance, I like it. I wouldn't say I love it. I overall think that as much as I've loved seeing Utah win in the fashion that they have, given the quality of their opponent, I'm not sure I'm ready to put Utah at number 1 just yet. I think for me, Iowa State having a top 25 win right now feels like the more appropriate place for them.
I think you can make an argument for Utah or Iowa State as number 1. I think those two are kind of interchangeable at 1 and 2. If you had Iowa State number 1, I'd agree with it. If you had Utah number 1, I'd agree with it. I think they, again, like Cam said, quality of opponent is not looking, after this week got a little worse for Utah with UCLA. But, if you want to call Ohio State's win against Kansas State a top 25 win, at the time it was, but I mean, look where Kansas State is now.
I would put Iowa State 1 because they've got at least 2 wins over 2 Power 5 teams, right?
That's true.
A Big 12 program and a Big 10 program, 2 bitter rivals, right? To win 2 rivalry games, I would go with Iowa State at 1, and then, Utah 2, TCU, I would put probably 3. With Texas Tech 4, and then from there I'd have BYU probably even ahead of Texas Tech, because I don't think Texas Tech has played anybody at the power level. I know that Stanford is not great, but still that's a power conference program. So I would put BYU 4, and then from there Kansas 5th.
Well, as we're talking through the rankings, I look at Utah, Iowa State, Texas Tech, TCU. I could see a case for any of those teams, especially the first 3. If we're going merit based, I'm with you guys. Go Iowa State, put them at 1. That's totally fair ranking. Once you get outside of that top 4, that's kind of where it starts to get messy, and you can kind of rank them anywhere. I had BYU fans that were coming, "You're crazy, you just hate BYU," and I just say, like, I'd put them as high as 5, but like, your offense didn't look great against Stanford. You basically did the same thing offensively that Hawaii did.
Yeah, I think, like I said, I think I'm mostly okay here. I think Arizona is my biggest one that I think, like, if I'm looking at just from a resume perspective, Arizona's schedule versus, say, Utah's right now, I think those might be more similar than maybe Arizona so far has on their schedule. For those who aren't aware, they have a 40-6 win versus Hawaii and a 48-3 win against Weber State. So not dissimilar to what Utah's done in the sense of, like, one FCS opponent, one bad FBS opponent. Granted, one of them is a Big Ten. I think that they could easily, and they play Kansas State this week. I think if they have a big win there, that could be a good showing for them. But they really, after that, they get Iowa State. So that'll be obviously the true test for them in a couple weeks.
I think this week is when we'll be able to, like, kind of know a little bit more about these teams, because, like,
once
again, like, a lot of teams haven't played anybody. But like, we'll get us, like, Kansas State and Arizona are playing each other, Colorado and Houston are playing each other, so we'll get a little bit more about them. Texas Tech's playing Oregon State. Oregon State's they're not great, but again, it's their first Power 4, or I guess not really Power 4 anymore.
What are they now?
First FBS game. So I think we'll know a little bit more about a few teams this week. But then I think, obviously week 4 when we start conference play, that's kind of where we're going to get, find out the most.
No
about
doubt.
Everybody are getting into conference and knowing that.
This is certainly early, and I think we're going to continue to learn about these teams over the next month and sort of getting a better feel for what they're going to be, as we get to the midway point of the year and halfway through October and into the final stretch in November. I think Kansas State has been the biggest surprise in terms of how bad they've looked. You've now lost, to Iowa State, which was tough. You've lost to Army on Saturday, 24-21.
After being up 15 in the first quarter.
Crazy just to give that one away after you had to go on a last minute drive to beat one of the Dakotas last year or last week. Kansas State is certainly a mess. West Virginia got upset by Ohio. That was a trap game if I've ever seen one, with the backyard brawl this week. Going to be interesting to see how Rich Rod responds in week 3. Cincinnati got a nice win over Bowling Green, was impressed with Brennan Sorsby. He looked good throwing the ball. His receivers actually caught the ball this week. That's a team that they've got talent. I just don't know that they have the depth of talent. We already talked about Arizona. Colorado is interesting. It was Delaware, so we can't really take much from there. But yeah, I think it's we're getting a feel for some of these teams, and I think we'll learn a lot over these next 2 weeks specifically. As we get this final week of non-con play, and then we get into the first week of Big 12 play. So should be fun, should be interesting. I think Bennett, you nailed it. Top 4, some sort of combination of Utah, Iowa State, Texas Tech, TCU. I put BYU. That defense is playing at a really high level. I would put them 5th. You could argue 4th, maybe, probably. And then, Baylor, Arizona State, Kansas, Arizona, probably in that next tier. Colorado, Cincinnati, and that. So we'll see. But I think certainly a lot to learn over the next 2 weeks with the Big 12. But with that, so guys, just to wrap this one up, any final thoughts before we put a bow on it? Nope.
No.
All right.
Got them all out.
I think we're in a good spot.
Yeah, I think
2-0, baby.
Yeah, but exactly. 2-0, having fun, points on the board. Should happen again this coming week. Sometimes things get weird in Laramie, but it's an early enough kick. I think it's probably safe. But yeah, best part about being 2-0 is the chance to go 3-0, and feeling good about that this week.